Hey, everybody. We are so thrilled to have you back for episode 5. 5. I can't believe it. And we have the specialist of guests. I'm so excited to have Paulina here. GH fans will know Paulina as ex Valarie Spencer. I know Paulina as my friend from middle school. And so Paulina is a writer, director, and actor, originally from Milwaukee, but you've also lived in Honolulu and now in the LA area. In addition to our favorite show that you've been on. You've also been on a couple of my other favorites, like The Good Place, Marvel's Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., also Scandal. So you have quite the resume that we want to dig in with you. And you have directed 9 short films. I'm like telling you about you. So you directed 9 short films, and just all around talented, amazing. And we cannot believe that you are here with us. So welcome.
Thank you so much for having me. It's so nice to see you all.
Yay.
So excited to be able to, meet you over the internet. But excited to meet like a real life actress.
I hope I don't disappoint. Pretty boring, actually.
No, it's exciting. So what can you tell us like how your career came about and about your career leading up to General Hospital? Like Tracy talked a little bit, but where are you from and how did you decide on doing performance art?
Yeah, I'm gonna try and keep it really short because as an old, your life is really long and you try to compress it. So like I could go on for an hour about that. So originally from Milwaukee. I did a whole career change. So I was actually a computer engineer for a really long time in school. And then I made a career change because I've always wanted to be in film and television. When I first applied for college, I had USC and UCLA applications under my bed, even though I knew like I would never go, like at least not at 17. And then when I decided to pursue it, I went to grad school for filmmaking. So I went to Chapman University and got an MFA in film directing. And one of the things that I think like a lot of new directors kind of struggle with is working with actors. There's this like mythology that's built around what we do, which can be cool, but it can also be kind of detrimental to a lot of things. And so there's this like kind of mythos built around what we do. And so when you get a new director, they just freeze and they're like, oh, I don't know what to do. So as a new director, I was like, I want to learn what an actor does. So I took an acting class. And when I did that, I just fell in love and have not looked back since. I still write and direct, but as far as like what you write and direct coming to fruition is a long process compared to auditioning for something and then the next week you're shooting it and then maybe a month later it's on TV. So as far as like acting work, it has taken off a little quicker than my directing work, but I'm still working on things in the background. So yeah, that's basically how I became a performer. I think they all feed each other. Knowing as an actor, knowing what a writer and a director does helps my acting. And then as a writer and a director, knowing what the person who's going to be performing what I'm writing is going to do helps. So that's pretty much how I got into performing.
Cool.
I love that insight into your journey of like from computer engineer to like filmmaking student to, oh, I guess I'm acting now. And that being like the thread that kind of got pulled out first. And so it has me curious about what was it like landing the role at General Hospital, and what was that process like for you, as like someone who would be stepping into a recast role, that also has a lot of like family legacy.
Wow. Okay. So auditioning for General Hospital, I auditioned a few times for a few different roles. And the one I got closest to was actually the recast for Jordan. So yeah, I got to the very end and I was one of like a handful to be selected for the recast for Jordan. And we went and tested. We went to the studio. They put us in hair and makeup, wardrobe. We shot on the studio, like in, I think it was the restaurant, like that, I forget what the name of the fine dining restaurant is in Port Charles, but yeah, we shot a scene with Darnell. 5 of us all came in. It was a little nerve-wracking because we like met each other and we're like kind of hanging out and we're competing for the same role. I met Bree there. She was there. She was awesome. She and I hit it off right away, like as like friends, as like, you know, cheerleaders for each other. Yeah, I loved her from the start. And yeah, and the thing is, like, I don't know if y'all know, like when you're recording at General Hospital, the feed, like while you're performing, is playing through the whole building. So, and there's TVs like everywhere in the makeup room. So like everyone's like watching you work, you know that everyone's watching. It's piping into the offices. It's piping into the security guards, like little, like everyone. So it's like really stressful. So not only was I testing for the role in front of like Frank and like, you know, the cast and crew who were like shooting at the time, but like all the other actresses are in their dressing rooms watching my performance too. So it was like super stressful. Yeah. But the test went well. And yeah, I think I was like the top 2 or 3 is what they told me, but they went with Bree, obviously. But Frank loved me. And so he kept wanting to like find something for me to be in on the show. And that's kind of how it works in this business. Like they talk about, to keep actors, you know, positive. It's all about booking the room, because the odds of booking the job is something, it could be something so minor. I think it was because of my hair that I didn't get Jordan, but like, that's just me. That's my speculation. Short hair, like it was a topic of conversation. Like, well, the short hair work? I don't know. Like, but there's a million other reasons. It could have been that. It could have been I was too tall. It could have been I look too much like someone else on the show. It could be like, those are the types of things when you get to that the last 1, 2, 3 people, like you've already won. You've already shown that you've got the chops, that you're a great actor. And then that your tape is going to go to like ABC studios in New York, and some executive behind a desk is going to be like, I like her or I like them. You know what I mean? Like that's literally how the end product comes out. So a lot of times you don't have control over that, but if you win the room, if you win over the executive producer, Frank, you know what I mean? Like if you win over someone, then they'll keep calling you back. And one day that executive is going to be like, okay, let's pick them. Like, you know what I mean? So that's basically what happened. Frank kept calling me back for things. And then I don't even think I auditioned for Val. I think they just called my agent and were like, hey, we're going to recast this role. We want to put Paulina in it. And I was like, okay. Yeah. So that's how I got that role. And then as far as the history, yeah, soaps, there's so many episodes, and like, it's not like Grey's Anatomy, right? Like General Hospital shoots like almost like 200 to 300 episodes a year.
Mm-hmm.
And it took how many years for Grey's Anatomy to get episode 100? Like, think about that. Like the amount of content there is to sift through. So when preparing for Val, I was like, it's impossible for me to see everything that Val's been through. Like it was just impossible. I didn't want to watch too much of what Brittany did, just because I just didn't want it. I wanted to just bring my own vibe to the role. But I did watch a couple scenes just to see who Val was, right? Because obviously I'm coming into a role that's already been generated by someone. I researched a lot of the relationships that she had. I researched a lot of the history of the family, how she was introduced to everyone. And then, we had meetings. I had a meeting with some of the writers and with Frank, and where they thought about where they wanted the character to go. And then we just kind of hit the ground running. I mean, in soaps, again, 200 to 300 episodes a year, there's not a lot of time. So you're just like, okay, let's just go with it.
Well, thank you.
Yeah.
Can I jump in? I was gonna say your story about your scenes being kind of fed throughout the whole building actually reminded me a little bit of California's cities, the Capitol building, because they have a feed throughout the whole building. And so whenever the legislature is in session, everyone can see it. And that's what brought to my mind. And I know it's kind of really off topic, but that's what I was thinking about. So if you have to present legislature at the state capitol, you be on scene by everyone will see it, and everyone will be critiquing you and arguing with you. So that's just,
Yeah. I mean,
what is politics but theater though? So
yes, exactly.
I mean, I think there's a method to the madness. Again, everything moves so fast, right? I mean, I'm sure you've heard that, like, when shooting a show, a day of shooting, a day in the life, right? We go through like 90 pages of dialogue. Just think of that as like a marker, right? 90 pages of dialogue in a whole day of shooting. An entire feature film is about 90 pages of stuff. Yeah. And we shoot that in one day. So I think the reason why is so that, like, if when your scenes are coming up or after so-and-so scene, you always have a place to look. If you're in another part of the building, like, oh shit, my scene's coming, I gotta go to stage now. So I think that's why it's not like so that people can be creepy or anything like that. It's so that everyone knows what's happening on stage, because there's multiple like floors and stuff. Like there's castings on this floor, and Frank's office is on that floor, and makeup's downstairs, and costumes, like they're everywhere. So it's just so that everyone can kind of keep track of like what's happening and can rush to stage when they have to.
That reminds me of how people always say folks love working with soap actors, because y'all learn the dialogue so quickly. And to your point about like this being like 90 pages, like this movie, I did this already. I did this 5 times or whatever. So that has to be like a amazing like skill to have under your belts.
It's very like you can't be nervous, even though I was incredibly nervous, especially for like the first couple of weeks. Yeah. You really like can't afford to be nervous. You get 1 take, maybe 2. And you just got to nail it. And there is no, it's just, you just got to do it. And, on the flip side, you're on a different show. I mean, TV in general is pretty fast. Feature films are really slow. Like you could spend an entire day shooting 1 scene, like in a feature film, saying the same 4 lines from 1 scene over and over and over. So, okay, you're fine. You're going to remember your lines. But like, yeah, it's definitely teaches you to make choices quickly and just go with it, which is kind of what you have to do as an actor in general.
So I want to know like the General Hospital tea, because I'm a little messy. Like if you look at our
I'll give
Twitter,
as much as I can. I can't spill it all over the place, but I'll spill as much as I can.
If you look at our Twitter, one of my favorite gifts is like, I love mess. But no, not just the mess, but want to know about like your time on General Hospital. Like who were you close to? Was there anybody that you steer clear of? Because we have a nemesis on this show.
I think I know who that is. And yes, I also steered clear of that person. We'll just leave that there. I had lunch with that person once and was like, okay.
That's a little bit of tea. You don't have to spill it everywhere, but you gave us a lot.
Yeah.
But like, also, was there any character that you wanted to explore with, but you didn't? Because like you were talking about being able to like research Val. So was there somebody like?
Oh. Okay. Well, okay. Where can I start with this? Because I have something. Let me get my notes out. Because I don't want to ramble too much. I guess
Ramble away.
From the start, overall, it was a great experience. Like I learned a lot. It was kind of my first major role where I came back to the same show multiple times, because up until then I'd just done like one-off episodes of various TV shows. So it was the first time I was like called back to the same show and interacted with the same characters multiple times over a storyline. So that in and of itself, I'm so grateful for, because as an actor, you just don't book a lot of work. Even if you're an A-list actor, you might do one movie a year and that's it. So just being able to do that was a great experience. So I'm gonna just put that out there first. Gosh, my experience. The fans are a trip. Like that was interesting. Coming in as a recast was interesting. My Instagram became very interesting. Like people found me on Instagram, started commenting really weird stuff. People started DMing me. Like, yeah, it was my first time ever dealing with like a fan base before. And like the expectations to like interact on my social media, where I'm like, this is just a picture of my cat. Like, I don't know what's going to happen in the next episode. I can't really talk about it. Like, this is just my cat sitting in the window. Like, there was a lot of backlash when I came on in my Instagram and like various Instagram places. Like some of the stuff I got, oh, it's so funny. I laugh about it now, but then it was a little bit like, oh, like she looks too old to be Val. And I'm like, oh, okay. And then what was it? Val is supposed to be black. She doesn't look black. And then they're like, Val's supposed to be light skinned. She's too dark. And I'm like, I'm so confused. I don't know. And
do you want me in bronzer? No. What do you want?
I think ultimately it was just a lesson learned, and you can't please everybody. It's like, no matter what you do, there's always going to be a group of people who are like, so I think I'm really grateful to have learned that at least on this scale, because it's not like I'm like in a Marvel movie, right? Like, and like all over the world, like at least on this scale, it's like, oh, okay, this is how you manage this. And I went to some events, which was also very interesting. Actually, this is a funny story. And I'm poor Brie. I shouldn't bust her out, but we were at an event. Of course, they stuck me, Brie, and Taj in a corner together. And then like all the rest.
Shocking.
Like, yeah. So we were all there. We're just kind of hanging out. And this person comes up to Brie. And she's like, I didn't really like you at first. Saying this to Brianna. I wasn't happy they cast you as Jordan, and it took me a really long time to warm up to you. I just thought the other Jordan was just so much better, and blah blah blah. And she's just like going on this long monologue about how like it took her forever to start liking her, and then was like, "Can I get a picture?" Like, oh my gosh, I just remember sitting there like, thank God nobody recognizes me or like cares about me right now. Like literally like two people wanted to talk to me, because I don't know if I could have handled it the way Brianna did. She was so gracious and was just like, oh yeah, sure. But to like come up to someone and be like, yeah, I don't really like you, but can I have a picture? So the
fans are wild.
A trip. Is there something I wanted to explore? There was a lot that I wanted to explore. I know they had flirted with Val being queer, and like as a queer person, I would have loved to explore that further. But obviously that kind of never happened. I think part of it was, I don't know what was going on with Christina. Like I found her. We had a scene, and then it just kind of never happened. And it happens a lot in GH. You know, they start storyline. I'm sure you know as fans, like they start storylines. You think they're going to go somewhere, and then I don't know if it's just like an amalgamation of like fan feedback and like executive feedback and all of this and that, where they're just like, you know what, we're going to drop this and move in this direction. Again, it's TV, it's money, it's all of that. So I'm kind of bummed that didn't happen, but
I am still bitter about it, Paulina, if that makes you feel any better. I still think about it. I'm still like, whatever happened with Val and Christina?
Yeah, I don't know. I mean, they told me they wanted to take Val kind of a little bit. You know, I'm not like Brittany, and Brittany's a lovely human being and person, but like you put us next to each other, it's like, oh, okay, we're definitely going in a different direction with Val. They said they wanted to take it a little bit like edgier, you know, in our initial meetings and things like that. And I guess it just never materialized. And I don't feel any one way about it. Like, I don't feel bad, like negatively towards them about it. I think that's just the way TV works. You know, sometimes storylines just don't happen. Another one that me and Brianna always daydreamed about, because like I said, she and I are really tight. We always wanted to have like a really like buddy friendship with Val and Brianna. So we had our like scene when she was when Jordan had her kidney problems, and we had our one like emotional scene together, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's a start. It was like, we could have Jordan come to my place, and like I can cook for her, and like we can just hang out and have wine. And I'm like, oh wait, this is a soap. Like they're not gonna have like these types of scenes where, you know, like it's not Viola Davis and Kerry Washington having their wine together type of deal. As much as I wanted to have scenes like that with her. So that was something else that like, and then also, and I think I can say this. I really wish they would just not confine all of like the Black characters to have relationships with each other only. Like, I wanted to kind of venture out a little bit. And that's just
and
my
you were
own
a Spencer. You should have.
I mean, that's just my own personal, like looking back, thinking about it type of thing. It was never anything where I was like, I pitched it and they were like, no, or anything like that. It was just something looking back. Like, I really wish we could have messed around a little bit more with that aspect of things. So, yeah.
I think it's interesting, the just kind of the Black experience on the soap opera, because on the one hand, you have a set of fans who feel that there needs to be more Black couples or more Black interaction, like story and family, kind of like what you would see on Young and the Restless, which had a real strong historical family on that show.
I was almost on that show. I was almost on that show. Yeah, I was almost on that show. I got really far. Yeah. It is. I was almost on
then on the other hand, when you do that, there's almost a limitation, because sometimes the Black family doesn't get the juicy story. So you kind of want to interact with the other actors too. And so it's a kind of a hard tightrope to walk through.
And then it also becomes like a little bit incestuous, where it's like the same coupling over and over. It's like, who's gonna come between Jordan and Darnell? Val again. Like, it's like, you know what I mean? Like
yeah,
when it's like so few, then it's like we're just recycling couples, and you're like, come on, like they're not gonna keep getting together. At least like let's spread that out a little bit. I was like, who could Val get with other than Christina, if we keep it within Jordan, Darnell. I mean, at the time, I keep calling him Darnell. Darnell. I'm just gonna keep calling him Darnell. Taj. Yeah, I can't. At that time, it was just us.
Right.
That was on the show.
Another part of the Black experience is our hair, which is huge part of our identity and our culture. And right now, you know, the entertainment industry is kind of going through this kind of reckoning, where they're looking at, you know, how Black actors and actresses are treated on set. And one of the things that was discussed was how prepared a set is to deal with Black hair. And so I kind of wanted to get into that a little bit with you, is to get an understanding, you know, what was your Black hair experience at General Hospital? Because some, you know, some actresses and actors, they are doing really well with, you know, their hair. Like Sonia Eddy, she has her dreads and she has them in different styles and it always looks good. You know, they don't have her looking, you know, raggedy or anything.
One of the hairdressers is Black. It's Nikki.
Oh,
yeah,
wow.
they have a Black hairdresser. Yeah, she's great. She's really great. My hair, I mean, at the time I had like a little bit longer that right now I'm buzz cut and I'm probably gonna be buzz cut for the rest of my life. But at the time I had like, you know, a TWA, right? Teeny weeny afro. And yeah, I just would come camera ready. It was just easier that way. Mm-hmm. I hesitate to like speak too much on it because I never was a series regular on the show, right? I was a guest, like a recurring guest star, which is like, I mean, like actor mumbo jumbo, like Hollywood mumbo jumbo. A series regular is like someone who is like guaranteed to be on episode after episode after episode, and they sign contracts and they're there for 3-4 years or whatever their contract is for. As a guest star, they just call you in whenever and they book you on like a day-by-day basis. So I didn't have a regular hair person or makeup person, which can suck. Let's be like, to be real, it can suck because a lot of times, and this is not just General Hospital, this is just like any show in general, you get sent to the day playing hair and makeup person. So your hair and makeup person is probably different every single time. And so it's even more of a grab bag, like, oh my God, who am I going to get today? And when I was first on the show, like, yeah, I had some issues with makeup more than hair because Nikki was great. She would just give me some edge control and we're good. But makeup, like, I don't know why I never did it. I should have just bought foundation and just brought it, because matching the foundation was an issue for a lot of the day players. Now, when I got lucky and was called in at a time where I could work with like one of the head makeup artists or like one of the regular makeup artists that work with the other Black women on the show, they would be like prepped and ready to go. But if I showed up on a day where like all the Black actresses were working at once, and like, then it would be like, okay, you can go to that person and then they'll help you out. And I'll be watching them mix. And I'm like, it's going terrible. And I'll never forget one time. This is my first kind of major show, so I didn't really know how to speak up for myself either. But as she was putting the foundation on me, I just was like, I look dirty. Like, it's like this dark, my undertones are like yellow and you're giving me olive, and like, this is not, I looked dirty. And I'll let you find the episode. You'll see it. I was so upset. I did say something and someone was just like, well, the lights are really bright. So I was like, I don't know if bright lights are going to fix this. And sure enough, I saw some pictures and I was like, and what do you do? I mean, that's your face that's going to be on TV forever. Like that picture. And I've actually seen that episode screenshots on like fan Instagrams. And I'm just kind of like, oh, I just like, can you pick a different episode? Like, where I was looking good. Like all them episodes when Jordan was in the hospital, I was looking good with my little red lip and everything. I was like, ooh, yes. Yeah. Sometimes it's tough. And then when I went back in 2020, I wore a wig, and that was a little bit of a negotiation because I'd already shaved my head and I was actually not sure how long they were going to have me. And I had planned on going platinum for a bit. So I was like, you know what? I haven't been on the show for like a year. Chad showed up with long hair. I was like, Val can show up with long hair too, right? Like, it's literally what I said. I said, some of the dudes grew their hair out over the pandemic. Val grew her hair out too. So that was how I negotiated that. And I wore a wig. And that was also interesting with the fans, how they reacted to that. But, it's social media. What can you say?
Well, I guess it just kind of just depends on, how long your contract is, like you had mentioned, and then what's
Right.
going on that day, and
Right. Because then they know.
about it. Yeah.
If you're there every day, like with anytime you come to a new set and you're dealing with a new person, regardless of if they know Black hair or not, or they know how to mix for Black people or not, like there is a negotiation of like, oh, your hair type is this, oh, your hair reacts to this, you know what I mean? Like there is a learning curve. So to be fair, you know, when you're a day player and you're dealing with like day playing makeup artists and day playing whatever, like we all don't get to gel like the rest do. So yeah, and I think the protective hairstyle, I think you guys mentioned that, or maybe I read that somewhere, I don't know. But I think the protective hairstyles is a speed thing as well. Because when you're shooting in a day, right, we're talking about 90 pages, but all the scenes you're shooting could be happening at different periods of time. Right? So you don't have the time to change your hair and be like, oh, there's people that have to keep track. What day is this in the story? And then like they have to take you back to the day that we shot last week. And so you can't do all kinds of wild different hairstyles all the time, because you have to be able to repeat it so that it looks like the same and like continuous on the show. So I think there's like that element to it as well, because if you have to go back and get blow dried and whatever, your hair's just gonna get damaged. Or you have to wash out, you know.
Especially our hair. One of the things that we talked about, we call ourselves Trina's auntie sometimes because we feel very protective of Sydney Michaela. And they're
the sweetest.
Yeah, I'm glad to hear that. And I was like in a GH Facebook group. I don't recommend. And it was like Sydney had like baby hairs or something. And somebody was like, why did she have bangs on her forehead? And it was like a continuity issue. But I like went off. I was like, if you can't have baby hair, you just say that. Don't be jealous of Sydney. It was like very...
Tracy. I will fight somebody for Sydney. I will fight somebody for Sydney. She's the sweetest. So talented, so professional. Like there's varying levels of professionalism. I mean, in any workplace, right? But also like there. And she always was prepared, lines memorized, ready to go, smile on her face. Like she's a treat for sure.
And I think it's like something that, like those headlines, actors, they're just like us. I mean, that's something that we all as a culture kind of have to deal with when going into the workplace, is how people react to our hair and what's the best way for us to feel comfortable in our own skin. And I was just thinking like that's the design, the purpose of a protective hairstyle is to make it easy for us to protect our hair, but also look great while doing it. So sometimes protective styles are what's called for and what's needed. So but it was really curious just to see what your experience was. So thank you for sharing. That was really
I think in general what people don't realize about like actors, and not just on soaps but also just on any show, is like our skin and hair goes through so much like so much. It's like people touching your face constantly, people in your hair constantly, tugging at your hair constantly. Like it goes through so much that the more you can do to protect it, the better. So I think I feel like a lot of people who don't have Black hair don't have as many options as we do as far as like protective hairstyles. On the flip side, right? Like I mean, I do see, one of my favorite things to do is calling out bad wigs in TV shows. So I can see when people like of all races wear wigs and I'm like, ooh, that's a wig. Ooh, that's a wig. But I mean, outside of wigs, I mean, Reese Witherspoon shows up on the morning show with some box braids. No, not going to happen. Like with some dreads, not going to happen. Like no one else can do that but us. So I think that's
Let's hope. Let's hope.
Oh yeah,
don't put it out there.
Yeah, some people do and think they're just fine, and no. So
yeah, the 2000s, the aughts was a thing. Lots of braids and
odd knots. You ought not to have done that.
That's perfect.
behind us.
That's perfect. Oh, I can feel that.
Thank you so much for like calling attention to like just the intimacy involved in having someone and also not knowing who it is that's going to be like helping you put your best face and like self forward. And I was just feeling you so much when you were talking about like, and that wasn't the screenshot that I wanted everywhere. It's kind of like when you get the selfie approval from your friend, like, is this the one that we're going to post?
Yeah.
Right. So I appreciate that. And also loved hearing about Sydney because we, you know, obviously we love Sydney so much here.
Well, it's very well placed, your love.
Yeah. That has me thinking about, you know, do you keep up with any of the many wild storylines since you left? And could we ever like hope to see, you know, would you be open to coming back as Val to also relive or to live into my personal favorite storyline that never happened?
Oh yeah. Okay, as far as like storylines, do I keep up? I keep up very loosely. I think I follow General Hospital. This is say hi to Wesley Snipes, my cat. But I keep up very loosely with the story. I follow General Hospital and I kind of just watch the clips that they post every now and then. Which also is kind of fun that way because I have a group text with Caitlin, Sophia, Bree, and Cassandra. So like those are like my buddies. Yeah. So you've seen us on Instagram together, like, you know, our brunches and stuff. We're still close. And so I'll always like text and I'll be like, Caitlin, you killed that scene. Oh my God, you had me crying. Or I think the most recent one I sent was like, when did Jason and Carly get married? Like, when did this happen? I was so shocked. Like all these wedding posts, and I'm like,
Same.
I'm sorry, where's Sonny? Like,
we were watching and we were shocked. We were watching all along.
Okay.
It was weird.
Okay. I mean, they looked really happy, so I'm like, I guess this is a good one. And I think all I got was, yeah, it's wild. Like, I think that's the only response I got. I was like, yeah, it's pretty wild. So I'm excited to see through my loose followings on General Hospital Instagram how that pans out. Otherwise, I was very invested in the love triangle with Chase and I keep calling them by their real names, Katie and Chad. I'm sorry, my brain. But yeah,
Chase, Michael, and Willow.
Thank you. Chase, Michael, and Willow. Thank you. Chilloco.
I just like it called.
Oh yeah. My Chillico. Okay, anyway, I was very invested in them because I love all three of them dearly. So to watch them all like tug on each other was really great. But yeah, I keep up loosely. And as far as if I'd ever be willing to go back, I mean, I would love to. I think I just don't know it right now. It's just kind of a like, if they call, they call. The last call that I got was to kind of fill in for COVID reasons. Like someone happened to be like on COVID protocol. So they were like, we have to shoot these scenes tomorrow. Can you come in and fill in as a cop? So like, I didn't even really get to be Val. I was just like, you know, the detective showing up to ask questions and like whatever, which I totally understand. I mean, maybe they'll come up with a storyline for Val later. Maybe they'll recast her again. I mean, that's just kind of how the soap world works. And I'm always open to it. Frank knows I'm open to it. So it's just a matter of when. But you know, I can't tell you. And like, even if I could, I would. Even if I knew, I couldn't say anything. So.
Well, you know, I'm about to start adding Frank Valenti on Twitter. So this is my new campaign. Bring back Paulina.
Actually saying it. It's great. It feels so good. it does feel really good to like, you know, those few fans that every now and then, like when my name, I think when they post like my birthday post or whatever, and people are like, can you give her a storyline? I'm like, oh, thank you.
Bring you and Christina back right now for this story, Frank. We want it. We demand it.
Right.
Well, aside from our campaign that we're starting up to get you back on General Hospital, can you tell us what you have that's coming up and how we can make sure to support your work?
Oh yeah. So right now I have a movie that's like kind of in the festivals right now, and we're hoping for distribution. So it's called Marvelous in the Black Hole. It is a coming of age film about a Chinese American family. I loved it because I got to play in an interracial relationship that was not centered around a white person. It's me. Yeah. So I play.
Imagine that.
Yeah, I know. So the young girl in I'm going to call it a show, in the movie, she lost her mom. She's got anger issues around it. That's how she's like dealing with her grief. And I'm kind of the new love interest for her father that she like, yeah, that gets a lot of grief, put it that way. It's a beautiful film, and I think it's definitely going to get distribution. It's just a matter of where, because people need to see this movie. So right now it's kind of in the festival circuit, and we're hoping to announce whenever I'm told by the producers. I haven't heard anything yet. But as soon as it is, I will definitely hit y'all up and let you know. Because you should watch the movie. It's really great, by this amazing Chinese American woman filmmaker. Yeah, the whole team. It was one of my favorite experiences on camera, like working in the business. I know that right now there's a lot of like not so great things about the behind the scenes world of Hollywood going around right now. And I think what that teaches me as someone that's in the industry is like, when you get a good experience, like you cling to that, because that's the exception, not the rule, unfortunately, right now. You're dealing with a lot of egos, you're dealing with a lot of money. So when you get to work on a set where it's just like a love fest, you just hold on to that. And that's what my experience with Marvelous in the Black Hole was. And I think it shows in the film, in the completed film. So I hope you all get to see it.
Yeah. Oh wait, I was like, Tanya, you weren't moving. I was like, did we lose Tanya? But it was just Zoom.
No, it sounds awesome. Yeah.
Yeah, it's about like magic. Like this, she's grieving and she meets this magician. I'm trying not to give too much away, but she's grieving. She's like angry. Her dad threatens to send her to like a camp. And she meets this like magician, played by oh my gosh, her name just left my brain. Rhea from Cheers. Yeah, she's in it. Yeah, she's the magician. And yeah, they become friends, and it's like a buddy, and this like little angry girl learns how to be a magician, and like, yeah, it's just a beautiful, lots of surrealism, like magic realism. It's a beautiful film. So I hope you all get to see it.
Yeah.
I can't wait. That sounds amazing.
Marvelous and the Black Hole is what it's called.
Marvelous and the Black Hole.
Yeah.
Is that an original? It sounds like it was a book.
No, it's an original. Kate
Okay.
Kate Lang is the writer director, and she wrote it kind of based off of her own like childhood growing up. Yeah. So yeah.
Wow. Well, thank you so much for coming. Really appreciate hearing. Yeah.
Thank you for having me.
Yeah.
Thank you for having me. Oh, I did want to share one fun fan moment with you all, because Tracy, it's a Milwaukee connection.
Okay, tell me.
So one time I was recognized in public by a fan out of the blue, was at TSA at Mitchell Airport. Can you believe that? I was
That's
going
amazing.
through TSA and I was like, whatever, whatever. And they're like, oh my God, you're in General Hospital. And I was like, I am. She was like,
Like the
"Can I take a picture
recombobulation
with you?"
zone.
Of course, my Black sister. Of course, my Black sis. She was like so happy to see. She's like, you play Valarie. Can I take a picture with you? And I was like, yes, honey, we can. Milwaukee.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
That's amazing. There was like a couple people from middle school who were like, I think I saw. I was like, yes, you did. It was her.
I had another friend from middle school who showed me some posts. I don't know if it was the same posts, but showed me some posts of like, someone was like, is that so-and-so? And someone has said like, wasn't she annoying in middle school? And I was like,
Aren't you annoying in adulthood?
where's Jenny Jones at? Because I need my where is she now? I need my where is she now. Like,
Yeah.
Wow.
because I was a huge dork in middle school. Tracy can attest to that, but
Same. I'm still a huge dork.
I was very not at the popular table at all. And so yeah, to the popular kids, I probably was very annoying. But look at me now, Jenny Jones. Hello. Yeah.
Well, thank you so much for joining us. I'm so excited for this like supersized episode to like be up so that people can hear. And of course, like share your information with us. Like we will promote the heck out of you and obviously start our Bring Paulina Back to GH campaign.
Yay. Thank you. Thank you so much for having me. And thanks for listening to my rambling. I tried really hard not to ramble.
It was perfect.
You were a delight.
Oh, awesome.
Okay, so that was an amazing interview with Paulina. Can't wait for y'all to like see it and give us some feedback. And obviously join our Get Paulina Back on GH campaign. Bring Val back and let Val be gay. Like, let's stop playing here.
That should be the whole hashtag. Bring Val back and let Val be gay.
Just
That one whole long hashtag.
you gotta like capitalize every like first letter so people know like they can read it, you know?
Yeah, but you gotta do it.
I'm on it. I changed that org petition. So all right, let's get into it. Recap of the week. Even though we lost one day this week, it still was full. So let's get into it. So we start with my girl, Kelly Monaco, wearing the hell out of that dress in Monte Carlo. Sam and Dante are trying to get information from a Shiloh ally about Drew's plane. They fake a fight and meet casino owner Dallas Kirby, and we are reminded of Sam's old con days. Dallas lets the duo know that she helped stage Drew's plane crash for Shiloh. And we get some retcon of the formerly like J-Sam, currently known as Dream Ship, with Sam saying that she didn't really ever know Drew because she thought he was Jason. But she's right now fighting to bring Drew back for Scout. I put that in for you, Sandra. I know how you feel. Dante confirms that he is over Lulu, though elsewhere, Maxie is talking about them as one of the greatest love stories ever told. And he wants to move forward with Sam. Peter and Victor talk, and Victor presses him to stick to their agreement. Valentine comes face to face with Drew. He gives Drew a very sweet update on Scout and is shocked when Drew confirms that Victor is the one holding them hostage. When Valentine finally talks to Victor, he is told that Peter will kill them both if they don't work together. Victor also drops the bomb that he is Valentine's father. I now will refer to him as Valentine Cassadine Sheffield. We see Peter enter Drew's cell with what looks like a tarot card with a tower and tell him, "You're active." And Drew responds, "Reporting for duty." Robert Scorpio is back. He runs into Anna at the hospital where they are both there to speak to Nurse Chloe Jennings. Even though we are both Libras, it is Robert Scorpio season. We're into it. They find out from Drew. They find out from her that Drew is alive and being held. Chloe also confirms Peter's involvement. Robert is not happy to see that Anna clearly has a connection to Valentine, and he does not trust him. When Anna realizes her new boo is missing, she roughs up the hotel staff that has a tattoo showing he has some connection to the Cassadines. And Robert and Anna are shot at, and we find out the shooter is a mind-controlled Drew. Back in Port Charles, Sonny shares with Carly that he is doing well and got his bipolar medication adjusted. Carly is mad that Sonny didn't tell him about Nina, and he pivots by saying that he wanted to focus on his family, which she accepts for now. During their conversation, Carly's mind drifts back to being excited to marry Jason, which is the weirdest transition ever into some Carson sexy time. While they share a cup of coffee the next day, Phyllis comes to visit. She brings a box of Sonny's flannels, and they have a very sweet moment reminiscing about Lenny. Carly looks uncomfortable and has to go and leaves the two of them to continue catching up. Phyllis tells Sonny that she is also there to see Nina and brings up the relationship Sonny had with Nina when he was Mike. The Savoy also turns into a little hotspot. After snatching Esme's fake ID, Curtis catches up with Nina. He tells her about Jordan being in the hospital and she asks if he's ready to move on. She tells him about her time in Nixon Falls, including keeping Sonny away from her family. After finding out from Joss what happened, Milo confronts Nina at Savoy and Curtis defends her, which we'll talk about, I'm sure. On what appears to be another night, though you never know in Port Charles, Curtis has a date with Portia at the Savoy. And now let's get into it, what we've all been waiting for. Finally, Spencer is unveiled as the stalker. Ava shows up after a weird run-in with Esme and finds out it was Spencer all along and watches Nicholas kick him out of Windermere. Esme is shown trying to drive a wedge between Spencer and his friends, where Spencer very specifically only names Joss and Cam among his friends. Nicholas tells Ava that Spencer is dead to me, and Ava tells him not to say that. Nicholas cuts off Spencer's credit card, so he doesn't have enough money to stay at the Metro Court. He runs into Britt, who is disappointed in him, and tells him that he cannot stay with her. Carly, for some reason, also appears and lays into Spencer because of what the stalking meant to Avery. Esme decides to divide and conquer by talking to Cam about Spencer, and we continue to see some cracks in the Joss-Cam relationship. Spencer is clearly concerned with what Trina thinks about all of this, as the Joss, Trina, and Cam trio shows some compassion for Spencer. We later see Trina having some family time with Portia when her mom drops a Maya Angelou quote and tells her to stay away from that Cassadine boy. Trina leaves to talk to Ava, and Portia runs into Nicholas, telling him to keep his son away from her daughter. Carly also tells Britt she wants to clear the air with some radical honesty. And that was our week in Port Charles. Sandra, Tanya, what do you think?
I mean, I liked this week's episodes, but I don't know, when you said it was a lot, it wasn't a lot for me, because I feel like there needs to be one more episode. I'm just disappointed that there was only 4, especially because sometimes I plan my day around it. I'm like, okay, I'm having a busy week, a busy work week, looking forward to General Hospital, and it doesn't come on, and I'm just like, oh, it didn't even come on Hulu, so I'm sad. But yeah, I mean, there were some great storylines on there.
I obviously was, like everyone, upset about the preemption. I'm really grateful for the recap because, like, honestly, I didn't remember really anything but Valentine, Anna, Robert, and the teens. But that's, like, also just, you know, par for the course. You pay attention to what you enjoy. So overall, I really enjoyed the week. And I feel like some semblance of balance has returned to the storylines. So I appreciate it.
Agreed. So Sandra, what was your favorite moment? Oh, I'm sorry, no, Tanya, what was your favorite moment? I'm messing up. Y'all.
All right. I would say, I tweeted about this, but basically my favorite moment of the week was between Joss and Nina. That was when Nina walks into the restaurant and sees Joss, and there was the confrontation. And on social media, there's a lot of pushback about the writers not giving that. I don't want to say that scene, but a scene with Christina and Nina. They felt like that big emotional scene should have gone to Christina because Christina is actually Sonny's daughter. And also because, the whole, less of Joss, less of Carly type thing. But I feel like that scene was pretty perfect for me because I have to admit, a scene with Nina and Christina would be fire, and it's something that should happen. But I also think that Nina wouldn't have felt so torn up about it because she doesn't necessarily have a relationship with Christina. She has more of a relationship with Joss than practically any other child of Sonny because of her relationship with Jax. So even though Joss isn't necessarily a blood relative of Sonny, she was also still very close to him, and his loss really affected her. I loved the journal tie-in. I loved that she tore out the pages she supposedly wrote and gave the journal back to Nina. I felt it was very powerful. I was in tears. And I think Ina McCoy did an awesome job. Basically, there was nothing for Nina to say. She just had to stand there and take it, and she took it. And so it was amazing. That was my favorite moment of the week.
Mm-hmm.
What about you, Tracy? What was your favorite moment?
It's so interesting. I picked the exact same moment.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that something that's happened with the Nina storyline, Sandra's heard me complain about this a bunch because as the whole, like the 9 months of Nixon Falls happened, I was like, who is Nina gonna have? Like, this is so wild. Everybody's gonna be fucking pissed at Nina. And then we get back and like Maxie's cool with her and Curtis is cool with her. And so I was having a hard time like picking what I felt like was the moment of the week, but it was this for me because I think that Sonny's return has turned into like this Carly versus Nina like foolishness, right? And that doesn't make any sense to me. Like there is, I have a lot to say around consent and what consent means, and I think a little bit of like the Nina storyline like really triggered me around consent. And so I look at it a little bit differently than some other fans who are like as offended. I'm like extremely offended about it every time I talk about it. But I think that hearing that it's actually not about Carly, like it is, but it's about you taking this man away from his family and all of this kind of nonsense. They'd be like, oh, well, he was happier as Mike, or Sonny Corinthos was a bad person. He got to be this. Sonny has chosen to be Sonny at every corner, at every turn. There have been times where Sonny could have exited the business and he chose not to. This is what Sonny wants to do. So to pretend like Sonny is like a slave to this life and he would rather be Mike is actually not accurate. It has not shown up. And so people who have watched the show for a long time, like us, like know that that's not true. So to have Joss bring in, to your point exactly, like the relationship she has with Nina, and I would have actually even like, and Eden McCoy was great in the scene, and I would have loved to actually hear her tie in other things. I started journaling around when Oscar died. I started journaling when I lost Dev, or whatever, and like because Jocelyn has had a lot of loss, and to speak to that, and then I think that the other like. I do not think Jocelyn is a mini Carly. And I think that because people are tired of seeing her, maybe I think Joss gets a little bit less of the tired of seeing her. I think Joss gets a little bit of the Carly backlash. But she has a Carly streak for sure. But the way she tore into Nina was like masterful. She was measured and she was direct. In what world is that Carly? Carly could not have ever done that. And so it was heartbreaking. And I do hope that we see a little bit of that and are able to see a confrontation between Nina and Christina. But to your point, like they have a relationship and Jocelyn did a magnificent job, and it like refocused that storyline on not just being about Nina and Carly.
I mean, to continue on, I think the Sonny is back storyline is lacking in the fact that it is so focused on how Carly or maybe even Jason is reacting to his return. I mean, a lot of people were affected by Sonny's absence. I think Michael and Willow could have done way more than what they did. I think, other people in Sonny's life could be like, hey, Sonny was gone and now he's back. How does that impact me? We don't get that. Like, I really wish, like I said before, that he actually walked in on the wedding where all of the town was there and they could have a reaction, because that would have made it more real to me. I mean, for right now, it sounded like it's almost as if as far as the whole town is concerned, he was on vacation and now he's back. That's how it's like, oh, Sonny's back now. It's not like he was dead or anything and we all grieved. He was just gone and now he's back. But anyway, yeah.
It's also been like only 2 days since full days since he's gotten back too. So I feel like that's also part of it. We're still on this weird time vortex. But personally, because I don't like the storyline, I'm sort of like, oh, we're not hearing about people's reactions to Sonny. I'm cool with that. But you know me. I don't where my investment lies, and it's not in this storyline. I will say, I hear what people like I hear what y'all are saying about like it can be Joss and we can still have Christina, right? Like there doesn't have to be one or the other. I will say that the main difference between those two scenes would be like Joss is tearing out like book pages, Christina's tearing out like hair follicles. You know what I'm saying? Like, so they're just bringing different energies, and they're both important energies.
Yes. Sandra, what was your favorite moment though?
Oh,
if it was,
this was really hard because there were so many great ones. I was tempted to pick some of the Sprina micro scenes, but they weren't actually quite my favorite micro scenes. That's any scene that's like a minute or less. I'm gonna go with Spencer coming clean to Ava. Those were my favorite scenes. Like the Friday before the review, when Spencer did the actual reveal was great, but like where we actually saw like the meat was him confessing to Ava. And Maura West was just the most Maura West, so amazing, very like emotionally true to where Ava is right now. Like there's some of that like fury of like, what the fuck, Spencer, like what's wrong with you, like that mama bear energy, the pain from losing Kiki, and also the empathy, like the really beautiful subtle moments of empathy and shame, like when Spencer brought up like, well, this is why I did it, what you did to me, and like her very like subtle reactions to that, where she'd back off a little bit, and also her surprise and like shock whenever Nicholas said, I can't forgive you and I want you out of my life. Like I just like found myself tracking her so much. Obviously I went back and rewatched those scenes because they were so good, but I was just really captivated by how much she could do with such subtle reactions without also drawing attention away from her scene partners and like really supporting all of their performances. And then, I mean, Nicolas Chavez was also just giving us this whole range of reactions from Spencer, shame, guilt, defensiveness, rage, and like a real desperation to be understood. And you really feel for him when you just see that like at least his father is not making the connection. And whew, I'll hold my commentary on Nicholas for now.
I am furious. Nicholas is dead to me. I am over him. I am done. And I think to your point about Nicholas Chavez, like there is something with the Stalker storyline that is so important to bring back. Why this? it is actually not far-fetched for Spencer to be mad. We hear it, and I don't think that we get enough of, actually, this is what the fuck happened. Like when Cam was like, Laura had to send Spencer away from his family because he had so much rage because he was like lied to and betrayed by these adults. And I think that there's something that might get lost with that in the aging of Spencer. So like think about like, this was actually something really awful that happened to him. And Nicholas brought him into some shady shit with Ava prior to like falling in love with her. So when Spencer said like, are you really like gonna not love me based on like this legacy that you've given me? I thought that was so powerful, because this is not a vacuum. It's not like, some like, vanilla care. Like, it's not like Michael's kid did this, right? Like some vanilla character's kids did this, right? This is actually the legacy that you have passed him. He has learned to scheme. He has learned to do all of these things from you. And it's not far-fetched that he'd be mad at how this went down for him. And I keep remembering, I'm a Spencer apologist, of course, but I'm a Spencer apologist. I know it, but I was over Nicholas. I still have more to say about Nicholas, but anyway.
Yeah, it was super powerful. And to your point, Tracy, it was not even that long ago when when Nicholas was trying to get Spencer in a scheme against Ava, against all of that. And it's just like Nicholas has either a blind spot for his own behavior or a very short-term memory. Because it's crazy. And we still trying to figure out whether or not he shot Hayden. So, just the glass house this man lives in is crazy. And he can't find forgiveness for his own son. I think he needs to be knocked down a whole bunch of pegs. And I hope Laura comes back soon.
I can't wait.
I feel like she's the only one that can get through his thick skull right now. I still love Nicholas as a character, but I hate him right now in his decision making. I don't hate him.
I do.
I'm just very I very dislike his decision making right now.
I know we're gonna get in more Nicholas.
Yeah.
I was enraged on Monday. Oh my God. I really had to take some breaths. I posted one tweet and then I was like, that's it, Sandra. You can't post again until tomorrow because you're going to keep saying some wild shit. I think with some reflection and space, where I am with Nicholas is his behavior is indefensible, hate it. And I still feel invested in him at the same time. And I think that's because of, his history. We just did a deep dive with him and who he's tied to. So and the fact that you're not supposed to like his behavior. Mm-hmm. That feels very clear. Several characters have already admonished his behavior at the Windermere party, including Portia, which was amazing. And I think Ava is the first of many. So there's going to be more people who are going to reflect back to Nicholas that he's not handling the situation with Spencer appropriately. So he has a scene with Alexis coming up, and obviously Laura coming home, and Kevin is of course going to be like, the fuck? So I still cannot stand Nicholas. He shows up on the screen, I'm pissed. But I can remain I can feel I still feel invested, and that's because the people in his life are actually having organic, emotionally resonant reactions to his behavior, unlike Nina, unlike with Sonny, unlike with these other storylines. Mm-hmm. So, and I think that's part of the reason why I feel I don't even, I barely comment on those other storylines, because I'm just well, why would I comment on something that's not emotionally true? Give me all the wild story, revisions you want. I'll go there. Weather machines, whatever, leprechauns pooping rainbows, I'll go. But it has to be emotionally resonant.
Nicholas is dead to me, but I'm over it. I'm over
That's that Taurus moon of yours. Yes.
I'm just like, this is not beautiful. This is not princely. And I think I was not gonna go this, but I think it also just disgusts me that it was like this thing with your son happened, and you weren't even mad enough not to like feel up on Ava afterwards. You know what I'm saying? Like, this should have been emotionally distraught for you. I'm not saying that you wouldn't have got your freak on with Ava because y'all been apart for whatever, but like, disowning your child should be bigger. Even the way he talked to him, he was like, we were gonna let you in our family. Who is we? Like, what are you talking about? I'm your son. Your son, like, literally, he thought he was an orphan.
Mm-hmm.
I just feel like,
yeah, it means nothing to him because he's done it before. He'll continue to do it. You know, the first time you feel it's okay to abandon your son, then there's no going back, apparently, as far as he's concerned. Because he has that lack of caring. And you know what? It's amazing to me that I'm even forgiving of him, because in my own personal life, I was, not like a lot of children, was abandoned by my dad. And I'm just like, for me, like, I guess I kind of have that kind of finalized feeling where I don't feel like I need to forgive him at all. But and I'm not shocked that another parent would do that to a child, because that's my experience. But it is heartbreaking and it's really sad. And that's, that is an interesting and very sad legacy that we have right now in our society, where parents feel it's okay to just abandon their children and not have it be a big deal. I think it's a very sad commentary. I do hope they explore that story a bit more, because yeah, this is definitely having negative effects on Spencer.
Yeah. Ooh, that was heavy.
It was. I had to bring it there, but I just realized how it resonates in my own life,
Yeah.
where I'm like, I shouldn't really care too much about Nicholas at all, but I do. But at the same time, it's just like, dude, you really did something horrible, and you're blaming it on him when it's your behavior that really caused it. It's a really bad look. So GH writers, I hope you are watching this and really explore this a bit more, because this is just, it's not cool. It's not something we should be perpetuating at all.
I mean, I think our own histories like impact the way we look at it. Like I said, this Nina storyline with Sonny like is so triggering, because I'm like, where is the consent? Like, you know what I'm saying? I am glad they stopped them from like sleeping together, which was like the only redeeming thing of that storyline. But yeah. So let's bring it down. Tanya, I'll send it to you first. Like, what do you want to see more of?
I can check my notes. What did I want to see more? I will definitely want to see more Sprina and more Vanna. But I still kind of want to see that scene between Sonny and Spencer. I think Sonny didn't quite react the way he fully needed to or wanted to at the time, because he was kind of bringing himself down on having to possibly murder Nicholas. But and then he's like, well, let me get out of here because this is none of my business. But it is my business because you threatened my child. But I really want to see that relationship and how Spencer's behavior actually impacts it. I think the relationship that Sonny had with Spencer was really one of the outside of Laura, one of the few positive relationships that he really had. And I want that scene to happen. So that's what I want to see. But definitely more Sprina and more Vanna, always.
Sandra?
Oh, I have a list. I promised to pause to breathe. So much to say. I'll say that I have a lot that I want to see more of, and very little that I want to see less of, in part probably because I blocked out a lot of the storyline, but that's okay. So I really love how expansive Sprina and the teens, that's what I'm calling them right now, Sprina and the teens are, like how much of the story they're touching at this point. Like on Friday's episode, they dominated the episode. They were running at least 3 different scenes and different configurations up until the point when Spencer and Trina run into each other at Windermere. So it's like, it was a really strong ensemble episode. I felt like they were all doing really different things too. Like it wasn't like the teens and they're all driving home one agenda. It's like Spencer was dealing with his stuff at the Metro Court. Trina was talking to her moms, you know, her mom, and her Ava mom, daughter. It's complicated. And then Joss and Cam were having their, you know, both Joss was having her Nina stuff, they were having their Esme stuff, you know, like there was a lot going on. So I just appreciated the kind of ripple effect that, because it's really like Sprina kind of at the center of the group, creating this ripple effect in these other storylines, but it's not just Sprina driving the storyline now, like it was prior to the stalker reveal. Now, like everyone kind of has their trajectory and they all interweave, but they're going in different directions, which also allows for Sprina to actually interact, which obviously I'm very excited for whatever it is that happens on Monday. And I'll talk more about that when we get to predictions, but I really loved that like Esme's like attempt to turn Spencer against Cam and Joss like didn't work. And it in fact like showed her like, oh, I actually need to redirect my attention to them. I need to hook Cam, because like Spencer said that last little piece of like, oh, the most annoying thing is about my friends is that I actually care what they think. And so like Esme's like, recalibrate. I also want more Trina-centered point of view and storyline. So everything's been very kind of like Spencer stalker centric, even though there's been a lot of Trina like at the center, like putting pieces together, being the mastermind. She's still like focused on him and his behavior. And so I really would like for there to be more focus on Trina and her motivations. So it can't always be about dealing with Spencer's mess. And so I feel like we're also being set up for that with this scene with Portia. I appreciated that Portia was just like, oh no, hold up, honey. This is actually not at all your fault. And like, if my child, which I don't have one, but if like a young person in my life was talking about their crush or whatever with me, and she was like saying the things that Trina was saying, I would have the exact same reaction as Portia. Like it felt very appropriate to me. And also like, #Sprina, still shipping. And so the fallout with Portia is like, and Trina is like heightening too, with Portia hating Spencer and like rightfully saying clearly the Cassadine men are not to be trusted, because you know that's a completely fair assessment. And like they won't, to me it just like showed even more investment in the relationship. It's like, oh, now there's this like forbidden romance. Like when you start getting the parents involved, that's when things are about to get really spicy. And so I appreciate that it also signals a shift to, okay, like we're still dealing with stalker fallout and there's like clearly much more of that to come. And here's our Trina paternity storyline. And I know people have mixed feelings about it, but I'm just ready for this like Trina centric, like let's actually put the focus back on her and have Spencer figure out how he's going to support her instead of the other way around.
I like that. And I know from experience, when you are that age and your mama don't like your boyfriend, you like them even more. Like if they're like, don't be around that man, you're like, I gotta be around that man even harder. Like, so I'm real clear that is like a thing. I'll also say, surprisingly, so not surprisingly, what I want to see more of is the teens. Surprisingly, I think that what was really intriguing to me was this move away from the Disney into adulthood. Because when you saw Spencer and Esme was like half naked in bed. That is the first that we've seen of them. And I know, Esme, whatever, but like I think that Esme is pulling them into adulthood. You have her showing up to the bar. Because when I saw her at the bar, I was like, is the voice aging it up? Like, what's going on? Like she has a fake ID and she is saying very clearly, like, we are adults. And I'm not quite ready for them to be like Euphoria, because they're still my babies, and I don't know how I'm gonna handle. Because right now, like our chemistry is like light touches and kisses and like some eye contact. Like I'm gonna be a little weirded out when they cross into more than that. But it's actually time for them to cross into more than that. And so Esme is bringing them and like pulling them along. We've also like seen them grow up, in a way that's like, different. Like Spencer was aged up, right? Like, so we went from like the last Spencer to like, to Nicholas. Whereas to like these other kids, like we've actually seen them through high school. So I would like to see them actually like have a college campus, because even if it's just a quad that you only really see them, or a dorm or something, because we need to remember that they are adults now. With Cam, even him having a job, it's like, sure, but Cam also had community service, so it's not really that big of a difference from seeing him like work his community service to having a job. So like Spencer having money trouble and nowhere to stay, I was a little annoyed by Carly like butting into his relationship or his conversation with Brett, but like she also reminded you that he was an adult. Now, granted, I'm like, Carly, you don't even treat Michael like an adult, but it was important to like see them into adulthood. So I am interested in seeing a little bit more of that, even though they're my babies, so it's going to be weird.
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm. I like what you said about Esme. I know that scene was like reviled in a lot of ways, right? I mean, after I got past the initial impulse of like, no, I was also just like, yeah, of course they've been having sex. I just assumed that they were, because they're 18 and they have this very like Cruel Intentions vibe going, very Catherine and Sebastian. So like, I'm like, yeah, of course they're having sex. There's even like, if they were to go with the original Trina backstory, like she's probably had sex as well too. Like if you go back into the archives when Trina was like an off-screen character, right, and a foil for Joss. And I think another thing I liked about that was that it's also like Esme shows us how she operates. Like when like just before in the scene, like in the episode before, she had made a comment like, oh, that's not the only thing Ava's dropping, and that's why Nicholas can't think straight. And then the next scene you see them together, she's half naked in bed. So it's like you also get to see like Esme is like very much using that kind of like that white femininity angle of like, I'm going to use like my proximity to men for my power. And the way that I know how to do is with sex and tears. And it's like, it doesn't work with Joss and Trina because it's not designed to. And so it's like, you also I like the stuff with her and Cam because it's also giving us more insight into how she tricked Spencer. It's like, oh, I just want to be the best girlfriend I possibly can. And maybe feed you to a serial killer.
Yeah, I mean, I like the fact that they are like, well, I mean, I don't mind the fact that they are having sex at their age. I only just minded the fact that why he was having sex with her after she did all that kind of stuff. Like after she totally messed up and blew up everything. Because, like I tweeted, I was just like, he's asking her, why did you tell my uncle this? I was like, but you should have asked her that before you had sex with her.
He's 18. That's not what they do.
I know, like, I guess once she put it on him, that was all he could do as a teenager. They don't think, they just do. So I guess, yeah.
I've had relationships held together by much less. So
So no, for me, it's all about I can't be doing anything with you when I'm pissed at you right now. I can't. So, but then
Not an 18-year-old boy. He's over it.
I'm not an 18-year-old boy. So that's
and
how
you're not a Cassadine.
right. And then also another thing that I think is one of the things that Esme tries to do is she tries to present herself, well, her and Spencer a little bit, but they try to present themselves as more worldly than Trina and Cam and Joss. And part of that worldliness is, being adult and having sex, which I can imagine. Well, I don't know. I think Esme might actually use that as a weapon against Cameron, even though Joss actually, I think Joss seems to be more experienced than Cameron is, it seems to be sometimes, but I think she'll use that as a weapon against Cameron and be like, you and Joss ain't doing it, but I can do it. Or I will, or something like that in the future when she actually does start trying to stalk Cameron and Spencer actually lets her go. But so what do you want to see less of, Tracy?
Oh, me? Jason and Britt. I don't care. I don't care about them turning Britt into the character that she is. I was like thinking about Britt on the show, and then also other things I've seen that actress in. That actress is always a mess. Like it's just like everything. I've seen her on Criminal Minds. I saw her on Station 19. Like she is always in some mess, and I love it about her. And they have like neutered her for this show in the name of Jason. They were together once. I cannot imagine that Jason was putting it down like that. Like, just get over it. Like, I liked Jason and Britt. I was like actually really into it. I thought they had like a really nice chemistry. But what they've turned her into, and like being mad and being salty, like, yeah, sure, be salty, go have sex with Jax, and then let's move on. Like this, whatever they're doing, her pining, her being mad, her having to talk to Carly about it, it's bullshit. Move on. I don't like it. I can see less of that all day. What about y'all?
I'm over the brainwashed Sentinel story. I think we've seen that enough of that with Dante. I don't necessarily want it to be rehashed, at least not rehashed in depth. So I guess we have to have a little bit of drama or some drama for Drew to have to overcome. But I think he has enough to overcome. Being kidnapped for how many years? 2 years or something, and the repercussions of dealing with the changes back home. He has now a new dynamic with, well, technically he doesn't have a new dynamic with Jason, but I think there is a new dynamic with this new character and this new actor. So we get to explore what that dynamic is, and he may have a new dynamic with Elizabeth now that Elizabeth is kind of sort of flirting with Finn, how we can bring Elizabeth back into this storyline, so I think there is so much more that can be explored without having that whole I'm brainwashed and now I can start killing people type thing. So I'm hoping that's kind of nipped in the bud once we figure out what to do with Peter. Like, I'm hoping that we don't get to see too much more of him being, this, soldier for hire type thing. Sandra?
Also related to the Drew storyline. Right on point. No surprise here. I'm tired of this Billy Miller slander. I'm tired of it.
Slander? Who's slandering?
Billy Miller erasure.
Oh, erasure. Okay.
The dream slander, right? Of Billy Miller, right? So I think that what Sam said about Drew feels true in some ways, right? Like it feels true for the storyline that was written when Steve Burton returned, but it didn't feel emotionally true. It felt emotionally very false. And it's not actually true for how Kelly Monaco played it, which she was devastated. And that can't just be explained away by guilt, right? Like she felt guilty, so she was going to stay. That's what a lot of JSAM fans are saying. And also being really gloaty for fans whose couple is not anywhere near getting back together, y'all. So y'all can gloat, but your couple's still not together.
Why you gotta? Whew, hurts. It hurts. Truth hurts.
Well, you weren't gloating though, Tracy, because you're gracious and you also recognize the chemistry between Billy Miller and Kelly Monaco. So you're a more balanced JSAM fan, which I obviously really
that Libra.
Only they could all be more like you. It's obviously, you know, I jest and also be nicer to me. So I don't need Sam to declare that Drew was her one true love. I'm not that kind of shipper. It's fine. Like, I have accepted what happened in that storyline, even though it still makes me sad. But it really didn't honor the connection and the chemistry between Kelly Monaco and Billy Miller, and like the work that they put into building that relationship and making it work. And I think also like evolving it in ways and making it much more interesting than it had kind of devolved into. And what actually, at first I was like, okay, that's fine, because I don't even want Dream together now that Cameron Matheson is Drew. But then like when I went back and rewatched it, I was like, oh, this is not a rule out of a love triangle. This is actually a setup to chem test Kelly and Cameron and have Sam fall in love with the real Drew. So it's just like actually even more Billy Miller erasure. So I don't want it. I hate it on multiple levels. And I also hated all the Lulu mentions because she is my least favorite Spencer child and my least favorite child of Laura's, actually. So I don't want Lulu back unless it's going to be Julie Berman. And that's my take.
Damn, is Lulu my least favorite child of Laura's? I'm really mad at Nicholas right now.
Tracy's over here like choosing between grudges. I say that she's my least favorite because she's like, I've never been invested in Lulu the way that I've been invested in Nicholas and Lucky. So yeah. I have like complicated, like, you are my fucked up cousin and you fucked up, but I still loved you once upon a time. With Lulu, I'm more like,
P.S. Did you peep that Cameron called Spencer his cousin? And people were tweeting us like, we thought about y'all. I was like, I know, we're going to die on the Lucky is Cam's dad hill. That is his dad.
Manifest it. Manifest it.
Yeah. I just
Lulu, huh?
Are there any other
I don't like Lulu.
I'm just trying to think, I'm like, is Lulu like, if we're thinking about Laura's children, who's our favorite? I'm just like, I had a little bit of resentment of Lucky when he was attacking Laura. Like, he was very judgmental of Laura at some point.
Yeah.
And I guess I don't like characters that are who feel that they're, that nothing that they do is wrong. So Lulu was like that most of the time, like especially when she was first getting together with Dante. She was very judgmental against a lot of
I think that's when I understand Julie Berman. I think that she had really great chemistry with Dante. I thought she was actually really good as a daughter of Luke. I don't know. It's just like really hard for me to accept that Lucky was a cop, that Lulu would like fall in love with a cop and like betray Sonny and Carly. Like, that was a lot for me, and the self-righteousness of Lulu around that time, I just never gotten over. Now, I do still remember and love when Lulu tore into Elizabeth for sleeping with Nicholas, which is the only thing that's ever really endeared me to Lulu. Like, I watch that scene probably once a month, or because it's amazing.
That was amazing.
If Tracy's sad, sometimes I'll just play that scene.
It's like, you are a slut. I'm like,
no,
I think Julie.
No, I think Lucky's tearing into Elizabeth was way worse, but I do.
Oh, so good.
We also play that scene too.
Yeah.
It's a playlist. It's a playlist.
Yeah, if you ever want to be mad at Elizabeth, play those scenes and you will feel better about life.
Woo. My favorite part of that is that Carly showed up in the middle of it to like invite them to Lulu's christening or something, and,
She was like,
Elizabeth was just like, "Oh God, here we are." Lucky's like, they're over here ferreting like rabbits. I'm gonna go watch this after this. We're done recording. Actually,
I think that needs to be our next deep dive discussion. Is that a fair?
I would love to.
so good, so good. Is there anything else that we want to see less of?
I don't have anything I want to see less of, but another storyline I want to talk about was I loved the scene where Maxie's like, wait a minute, are Brooklyn and I friends? I thought that was so cute and funny and amazing. I loved that scene, and I did like that Austin was the one who pointed out to her. I mean, basically, but it was also a little preview because he's starting to remember stuff. And so she found it very concerning that he heard Brooklyn say something about how Maxie was her hero or something like that. And she's like, I remember when she said that, and you shouldn't be remembering that. But I do like the fact that, they're getting some friends, and he's telling her, you need to get over what Brooklyn did in the past, because that happened, like 10 years ago? so yeah, I like that scene.
P.S. Didn't your bestie sleep with your sister's husband or something? I remember that teen scene, Lulu and Dylan.
Yeah.
I also will say I do not like Maxie and Austin as like a couple.
Right.
I'm not there, but I do like them as friends. I like their interactions. I like them as scene partners. I love Kristen Storms. I mean, I've loved her for a long time, since days, obviously since Xenon, one of the best movies ever made. Zoom, 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 make my heart go boom, boom, all of that. Like, I have loved Kristen Storms for a very long time. And so like having her be able to have such a great scene partner in Roger Howarth is like fun to see. I think it's refreshing for her. It like really lifts her. She looks like she enjoys it. So I don't really want to see a romance for them, but I do like the idea of a friendship.
And it makes me want to think about, though, who could Austin be with? Like, I know there's some available women out there in Port Charles, but yeah, I don't know if I want to see him with Maxie. I want to see him.
I want to see him with Chase. I am doing
you
that.
and Lil Nas X have the gay agenda. You and
Yes,
Lil Nas
have
X.
a gay agenda.
I'm that I'm pushing a gay agenda. No, we all know I actually want Chase and Michael together. So
they do have chemistry. We're gonna just.
I love chemistry.
What is it? Mace, Chikel. I
think is much better, more appropriate. I did have another storyline I wanted to talk about, which is just in general, and maybe this is like under the category of like, what do I want to see more of? Like, I'm loving the reinvestment of the Cassadine family legacy. Surprise, I'm interested in the Cassadines. I think if you're going to invest in rebuilding a legacy family storyline, they have gone with the right one.
Yeah.
Like the Cassadines is what like is the kind of vintage GH that's needed. I loved, of course, I love this international mystery caper vibe, even though I have no fucking idea what is happening plot-wise. I have no idea. It's very convoluted, and I'm like a Lost fan. Like, I'm like a Game of Thrones, Alias, like the more convoluted the better. And I'm like, I've given up trying to figure out what's going on. It's fine, because it's like vintage GH in all the best ways. The shootouts with Robert and Anna, the old school romance with Valentine. Also, I loved Valentine's like little Breakfast Club montage where he was like basically every character of the Breakfast Club in detention, waiting for Victor.
Yeah.
And I'm excited to see that storyline, the Cassadine Oryx Island storyline, start to blend with the Port Charles Cassadine storyline. And I just more.
When Victor revealed that he could be Valentine's father, suddenly I was looking at both of them and was like, they actually look alike. Like they have wrinkles on the corner of their eyes are the same way. I was like, yes. I was like, this is great. And I hope Victor does come to Port Charles. And you know what I also hope happens? I hope they team up together and oust Nicholas from the castle, because that's what he needs to happen. Because apparently he feels that Spencer shouldn't have the money. And you know what? You of all people shouldn't have the money either. The way you're acting, son. So yes.
I want Spencer in on it too.
I know.
Yes.
Like
That would be the biggest comeuppance if Spencer runs to Valentine and Valentine helps him.
Just
Nicholas,
following the
that's my
family
prediction.
legacy.
Following the family legacy. Dad.
Nicholas,
I love it.
Nicholas would die and it would be appropriate.
I'll also say I enjoy that Carly and Sonny were not on every day. I did enjoy seeing Sonny with Phyllis. I'm wondering if there's going to be some fallout, or because, like, I mean, the story. Sonny, actually, Maurice Bernard loves him a scene with a black lady because he's so good with Epiphany. He's so good with Phyllis. He just lights up. Like there's something about him. There's something about the interaction that feels more Maurice than Sonny, and I actually love seeing that from him.
You know what talent black women, right?
Truth. And so, wait, is that actor not? Is he not? I don't know. Let me not start speculating about nationality. I'll just Google later.
Right.
But I wonder, because like there was like some uncomfortableness from Carly, right? Like she was obviously like really grateful to Phyllis, and that was amazing. But she's uncomfortable seeing how close they were because she wasn't part of it. Because Carly's so used to being a part of everything. She's literally into everything. And so to have something that's not her thing was interesting to see played out. And Phyllis is obviously going to be like forgiving of Nina. And so what would it look like for Phyllis to be in Port Charles, forgiving of Nina and having a relationship with Sonny? And start asking those questions like, Phyllis, girl, you saw Sonny with a wedding ring. Why didn't you push for him to like see who that was? And you pushed the relationship with Nina knowing he had a wedding ring. And I think that like speaks to how ridiculous the storyline was for Nixon Falls. So I'm interested to see if anything comes from that.
I want to know who Phyllis's long lost relative is.
Trina.
Who did I want? Yeah, Trina. Somebody said like, what if they brought back the Ward family? Was that you? Was that you, Tanya? Who was like, maybe they should bring back the Ward family, and maybe Phyllis could be like related to them. Somebody said that. I don't remember who it was.
Wasn't me.
That could be interesting.
I wish it was me. It wasn't though.
Also, y'all, what happened to the 5 families? I mean, Sandra, to your point, it is like day 2 of all of this. However, we are to have believed that it was so pressing that you had to bring Jason out of jail. It was so pressing, like all of this stuff with the 5 families was so pressing. So 2 of the 5 families' heads you took out. So then we have Miss Wu who's on your side. I don't know who the other family is, but if you take out my head, I'm still gonna be mad at you, right? Like I just don't understand like what's happening there. Are we gonna find more? I don't know. Like, is Sonny now in charge? Is that gonna cause some drama with him and Jason? So part of me is like, I really wish that we could have like a cooling out of like the Carson Jarly situation, but also I'm like, what is happening here?
Yeah.
If I have to choose between continuity and a cool off, I'm choosing the cool off. Tracy, stop asking these questions. We can't afford.
You're right.
We can't afford the answers. We can't afford them.
But like we said before, there's so much more to the Sonny's back storyline that needs to be addressed. It doesn't have to be about the Carson Jarly relationship. There's so much more. You know, the 5 families are like, Sonny's back. What does this mean? Or, what happened to the coffee shop? Who's gonna run it now? That kind of stuff.
Barista Spencer.
I do not want Spencer making my coffee. God no. Mm-mm.
it'll probably be Esme or something. But
Don't
anyway,
want Esme.
there's just so much more. There's so much ripple effects to Sonny being back that they haven't explored. So yeah, they can still cool off on that. And it could be maybe they reveal in December that Sonny and Nina were in love. We can wait. It's fine.
Just drop it.
Yeah.
Can't wait forever. All right. Well, I don't have any real predictions. I have wishes. I like to live in Sandra's predictions. So Tanya, Sandra, y'all have predictions?
Yeah, I have to agree. I am not the prediction girl because I'm a live in the moment type person. If someone asked me, what are you doing 5 years from now? I would be like, I don't know, living. But I'm just like, I'm not good at that. So, but I can tell you what are some of my wishes. So yes, I do want there to be the Sonny Spencer discussion, and would love for him to forgive Spencer, but also give him a live on your own type pep talk. So if Sonny does give him the coffee shop, then fine, that's good. I don't know. I know that Lulu is not my favorite, but I have for me, there just seems to be some tells where I think they're trying to bring Lulu back. Either that or Maxie is definitely going to be causing some problems for Sam and Dante, because that scene about her saying Lulu and Dante are the best, that can't be for nothing. There has to be something that comes of it. And for me, and maybe they're bringing Lulu back, or maybe they're just going to have Maxie be a serious thorn in that couple's side. So there's that. I'm also wondering, what the heck? So I was thinking of Valentine and Robert and Anna, and wanting, Robert to stay in the scene. And then I was just thinking, wait a minute, what happened to Finn's parents? Because Robert was also flirting heavily with Finn's mom, and all of a sudden they just disappeared. So Huh?
You mean Chase's mom?
Oh, that's right.
And definitely,
right. Chase's mom. Oh my goodness, because I forgot he had an affair with her. But yeah, what happened to Chase's mom? And what's going on with that? Because Robert's not gonna be romantically involved with Anna, but he also needs to have some sort of pairing and keep him on the canvas. I will reiterate that I want Laura to come back right now, because Nicholas needs a comeuppance as well, and he needs that lecture, and I want her to get another Emmy nod. And also, I felt like last Friday's previews, we were kind of fooled, or at least I was fooled, into thinking that Esme was working with somebody else, because she was on the phone talking about, yes, we need to celebrate. And I never thought occurred to me that she was actually calling Spencer, but that's what she was doing. But I was thinking she was calling her partner. There has to be some sort of motivation outside of Spencer for Esme to be doing all that she's doing. I feel like somebody's working with her, or someone's pulling her strings, and I want to know who that is. And a lot of people feel it might be Ryan, but I almost feel like it should be someone outside. And there have been, newspaper or tabloid or whatever, throwing out the idea of bringing Faith back. And so, what if it is Faith? What if Faith and Esme are related? That kind of stuff. So, in any case, those are my kind of questions, wishes, whatever, not quite predictions, because none of my predictions actually work.
Well, I do think that Esme is definitely working first. I think that whenever they drop little red herrings like that, we're like, oh, we're finally, it's also confirmation, even when it doesn't come true, that you're onto something. Mm-hmm. So I think that, yes, absolutely, Esme is working with someone. She actually had a call that she received in the previews for Monday. I think that the call was probably her getting her internship at Spring Ridge. So, and if not, then I would assume it's the person that she's working with. So I think that we're going to be seeing more of Esme interacting with Ryan. And I think that in the next couple weeks, if not this week, we'll know who she's actually working with. Because there was this moment when her and Spencer were having that really awkward hug on Monday after she drove Spencer's real friends and Trina away. that you know, he looked obviously miserable, like he always does when they're hugging, and also whenever you know, his plans
Again,
get spoiled.
reiterates why I'm like, why are you having sex with this woman? It's making your life horrible. But anyway,
18-year-olds have sex with somebody all the time.
So many people that ask so many people that. And then, but her look was, she was worried, and it didn't look like I'm worried because like I don't have money. It looked like I'm worried because this is part of my plan, and I'm gonna get in trouble if I don't keep this kid on lock. Because what reason does she really have to stick with Spencer if he doesn't have access to his money? And it's like looking like he's not going to have access to it anytime soon. So I think that we're going to find out more about Esme. I was curious about why they showed Esme's interaction with Curtis at the Savoy. I don't think it was just an accident. And I suspect that Esme will play a part in Trina's paternity storyline. And that's why they set up that interaction. I also think that Spencer is starting to wake up to the truth about Esme. I think it's really subtle and he's not all the way there, but the seed has been planted. I think the scene in the hotel room was super interesting. He gets mad at her and she said, you know, like I love that moment. I was like clapping. I was like, finally, Spencer, I know you're going to go back on this, but he was like, why the hell did you do that? And she said, maybe I'm still learning how to make you happy. He softens a little bit, says, none of this is your fault, which we actually know he doesn't think is true. Right. Like they already had a fight about this at the Metro court before. So does he really believe that? And then he asks for them to stop scheming. And the first thing that she immediately does is start playing him about Joss and Cam. Like the next word out of his, and then like the next word out of her mouth was about that. And then he repeatedly calls Joss and Cam his real friends, which is the language that Joss used the night before. So like, he's also just doing the opposite of everything that she asks him to do. Like he goes straight to Windermere after that confrontation with Britt to try and make amends with his father. And then he runs into Trina. So with that, we have Trina and Spencer in close quarters on Monday. Not an Esme in sight, not a Cam bumbling in, Sweet Simple Cam. Yes, we're back to Sweet Simple Cam, and he better hope that that nickname doesn't get worse. He better watch himself. Like there, you know, Joss knows, like Joss is not gonna jump in between this because she wants her girl to get what she needs. But I'm very curious about what's going to happen. I think that the main outcome will be that Spencer actually has to answer for pursuing Trina and hiding Esme. That's like the one reckoning that hasn't happened. Like he's fessed up to everything else, but he hasn't really had to answer for that. So like, what was he thinking? It's like the one thing that we're like, is the big question mark. And so I think we'll get more insight on that on Monday. I think it will bring Trina and Spencer closer. Maybe there will be a kiss. Maybe they won't. Either way, Trina's still going to have her reservations. She's obviously very conflicted, very confused. And so this is also part of a pattern with Trina and Spencer where they get closer and then something implodes. So I think we'll get some honesty from Spencer about his feelings, some confusion from Trina, then something big is going to explode in their storyline. And then we're going to be back to more mess. And then as the mess gets worse, they'll get closer again, so forth and so on. And those are my predictions.
As is the way of a super couple in the making.
Love them.
When Nicolas Chavez tweeted out that like Sprina gif, I was like, Sprina high, we eating. It's happening. Like on Monday, it's our time. We're there. I've never rooted for such a toxic relationship in my life.
Same.
Except for maybe my own. But that's another.
I've actually never even rooted for my own on this level. So yeah.
We got real personal in this episode, y'all. You learned a lot about us.
I know.
I was gonna send this to my therapist.
Is there anything that we did? We talked for a long time. This is like a supersized episode. Hopefully people still rock with us because I had such an amazing, fun time talking to y'all. Is there any like storyline we left on the table? Is there any like hot take you got before we go? Anything? Let me look through my notes, see if I have any hot take.
I do have one more.
Tell us.
So I was really thinking about, how do I feel about Neva? How do I feel about Nicholas and Ava? Because at the end of Monday's episode, I was like, gross, yuck, you just disowned your son and that made you horny. And Ava, why are you going along with this? Like, I was very upset. I was obviously very upset on Monday. And I again zoomed out and I was like, okay, like, yes, I hate Nicholas, but have I ever been like a Neva shipper? And I realized I've never been a Neva shipper, but I support the relationship. Maybe I'm an agenda shipper. I don't know. I feel like what I like about Neva is that, well, they have chemistry.
Who doesn't have chemistry with Maura West? I probably would have chemistry.
Exactly. Everyone. Yes, you definitely have chemistry with Maura West. I can say that right now. I like Ava as a Cassadine. And that's why I like Neva. I like what it's done for Ava's storyline. I love that she's the Lady of Windermere. I love that it creates family connections with Laura and Kevin, because like Maura West also has like such wonderful chemistry with Jeannie Francis and John Lindstrom, two of our faves. And that it also positions her to support Spencer and Trina. I love like, you know, Ava is like the second mate on the SS Sprina. Like she was like, I'm not encouraging your relationship with Spencer. I'm not encouraging it. But if I were, I might say all these things. I might say, you do you, Trina. And her face in the background when Spencer walked in and they're like in this like intense stare off and Ava's like, Ava is me. So I just
watch that.
That's just like that was my observation about like Ava and the Cassadines, and like why I still fuck with like Neva is not because I like their relationship, although I do appreciate like one of Nicholas's few redeeming qualities in this time is that he knows that Ava is a goddess. But like I actually just like, this is the first relationship I've seen Ava in where like the other person has anything to offer her really in terms of like status or like interesting storyline. She's always like the one that brings the interest in. So I appreciate that she's getting a new platform to be like, you know, fucking Princess Lady of Windermere. So that's my final hot take of the show.
Okay. Nicholas is dead to me, so it's hard to ship someone who's dead.
Yeah, totally.
I'm sorry. I'm so mad. I was texting Sandra because I'm like on a different time zone than y'all. I was like, you tell me when you watch General Hospital so we can talk about it. I was so furious. I was so mad. I was that mad at another character this week. Andy from Station 19. Holla at me if you are a Station 19 watcher.
Oh my goodness.
I was disgusted.
Disgusting. On that note, I think we should probably wrap.
Anyway, that's it. Say bye, y'all. Episode 5. Wow. Okay. Bye.